What's up, guys? I'm here with the 2025 BMW S1000RR, and today I'm going to show you guys how to install the BT Moto 1-inch lowering link. This lowers the whole center of gravity of the bike and keeps air from getting underneath the bike, which actually makes it faster for straight line speeds. Now, a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll lower the bike because the bike is too tall, especially with this new M seat. And this just allows a lot of the people that are shorter to be able to get their feet on the ground more confidently when they come to stops. Now, if you follow our videos on how to lower it 1 inch, we go from the rear and the front. You're not going to get any issue as far as turning goes, no geometry upset. The bike will actually be riding very well with the 1-inch kit on it. Basically, the part we're swapping out here is this link right here, and it's going to be connecting the swing arm to the suspension. A lot of people will go 1 inch instead of 2 inches because 1 inch is a great compromise. There's no cutting involved with 1 inch, whereas 2 inch is a whole lot of cutting and a lot you need to do. You only need the link for the 1 inch and that's it. But if you do have a DDC rod, you also need the DDC Link, which I'll show you how to install as well. You won't need a kickstand for a 1-inch link. You will need one for 2 inch though. And I'll also show you how to lower the front forks properly. First step here is to put the bike on a front and rear stand, then we can move on to the belly pan. The belly pan is easy. You just have to remove a few screws. They're all T25. Keep in mind that some of these are shorter or longer than others. And of course, we got one bolt right on the inside here. And we also have one right down here. So again, it's one right there and one right up here. Now these ones are easy to get to, just kind of a pain to get out. Keep in mind this top bolt here is longer than that bolt. There's also one bolt down here I forgot to get. That loosens the entire side. Now we can go to the other side and loosen that and it'll all pull out. Now, if you don't have a one piece like this one is, all you have to do if you have the original belly pan is you remove all those screws. One side will pull off from the bottom here. There's a clip in the center you just push and it'll all pull out. But there's also 2 bolts under there as well. So make sure you get those 2 bolts, clip, the whole side will come out, and then you can do the other side and pull that out as well. It goes in 2 pieces. These single piece pans come out in 1 piece, so it's really easy to slide this out. Now that we've gotten that belly pan out of the way, we're going to go ahead and jack up the center of the bike. Now the reason we jack up the center of the bike is so we take all the tension off of the link itself, because if we were to let the link loose and pull it out, it'd be next to impossible. We got to let the pressure off of it. And the only way to get the pressure off it is by lifting the bike from the center, the front, and the rear, all 3 together. This jack is kind of dictate exactly where the bike needs to be to get the link in and out. So now we got some tension on there, we're good. Now we need to pull off the chain guard, which is a Phillips that is plastic. So you gotta be extremely careful when you pull this out, otherwise you're gonna strip it really easy. You also need to pull out this small T25 right there. Now that this is loose, on this bike there's one more piece that clips in from the back. You push a tab, and then the whole thing will slide out. Now this is the plastic one. If you have the carbon one, there's a T25 that connects the carbon chain guard to the carbon mud guard. For those bikes that have the electronic suspension, you'll have this DDC rod. And this DDC rod monitors the level of the bike, and if this level is wrong, it creates an error. What I'm going to do here right now is just mark the angle. So if we've got this right here, I'll mark that like that, and I'll mark this like this. So you can see there's an angle right there, right? I can barely see it in black, so it's not going to show after this, but that's the angle right there we need to match of this rod, because once I pull this rod out, it's going to be really flimsy. To remove the DDC link, we have a 10mm here, and I just like to hold it from the back as well. It's a very delicate piece of plastic, as you can see. That comes out from there, and then at the bottom, we have another 10 right here, and this just pulls out. It's also Loctited, so it's a little bit of a pain. Now remember, going back in, you need to put a little bit of Loctite as well. Anything that has Loctite on it, make sure you put Loctite back on. Now I'd probably use blue, because that's non-permanent, and will work for any vibrations. This thing is taking forever to remove. It is longer than it needs to be, way longer. See what I mean about marking this? If I didn't mark this, this just kind of goes everywhere. You can see now that I have it lined up, I know that's exactly where that goes. Now all we gotta do is remove 3 bolts. This one up here, and one down here on the suspension. Right there. First I'm gonna start with the lower suspension here. Now you can do this by hand, but today I'll be using an impact, because why not? If you got one of these tools, why not use it? Makes the job so much easier. And it looks like my impact wasn't enough, so by hand, I'm gonna get this thing nice and loosened out of here. So now we got it mostly out of here. You can see that it's not moving, it's not budging. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna raise the jack until this becomes easy to remove. So I'm jacking it up, starting to come a little bit. You can see right there, that's the money spot. Now it pulls right out, and you can see right through it now. Like the suspension is right there, so lines up nicely. That's why we use the center jack, is to line up these holes for the bolts and everything. Next lucky victim is going to be this T55 right here. We'll see if we can get it out with the impact. No, I'm gonna have to break it loose. Break it loose with the arm strength. It should be loose enough where this can pull out with the impact now. There we go. Now the final boss here is going to be this bolt right at the top right there. So I leave this bolt a little bit threaded in, just so it holds the suspension up. We can actually manipulate the middle jack here. See if I can get it on camera, where I can make this actually lower. You can see by raising the jack, it brings this bolt lower so it's more accessible. You can see it slowly rising. But you would be careful. You don't want to hit the jack too much because then the bike becomes unstable. See, it's kind of shaking back and forth right now. So you want to keep monitoring this, and you want to bring it up as much as possible without it falling off the jacks. Now, the reason why I got this front holder from Amazon, it's like 70 bucks, is because it holds the front wheel a lot more sturdy than just a fork jack will or a forklift will. So this one holds the whole front wheel, gives me a little more stability than it would if I use like a pit bull front stand, for example. Now, unfortunately, there's no kind of impact or torque wrench that can get in this spot. So you really just kind of have to get in there a little bit. Start using some hand power. I've got it broken. Now it's going to come, but it's going to take forever. 3 to 5 business days to get this thing out. So you're going to have some patience and some strength. Maybe switch off with a friend. It'll eventually come. Now, yes, this bike also has the SOS system that I'm pressing up against right now. You can still get your ratchet in there. I don't want to hear anyone say you can't, because I'm doing it right now with the ratchet. All right, guys, so I lied a little bit about the SOS device. It really is in the way, and I can't get the bolt head or the ratchet head to release from the bolt after I back it out a certain amount. The SOS device is blocking everything, so I have to remove it. Now, I can't remove it because it's being blocked by the frame, so I have to move this up. Now, the way I moved it up was I removed the 4 T50s, 1, 2, and on this side 2 more, that hold the subframe to the frame of the bike. And now I can pick this up. I can safely remove that bolt and remove the SOS device so I can remove that front bolt for the Link. So with a friend or propping up the subframe itself, you're going to want to get a T30 on the back end of this. And you want the bit to stay on the ratchet, but sometimes it doesn't work that way. Once it snaps loose, it goes out pretty easily. There, now the whole system is gone. You're gonna have to replace this and put it back in there though, because if you don't, you're gonna have errors. Now that the SOS is out, this will come out without a whole lot of issues. There you go. Now you will notice the bolt at the top here does have a spacer. Make sure that goes back in there. And the bolt at the top, you can see is slightly shorter. So other than the other two, they're same size. The one at the very top there is slightly shorter, remember that. And with all the bolts out now, we can now pull the Link straight out, and we're gonna swap the bearings out now. Okay, let me walk you through how to swap the bearings out here. First of all, I use a Motion Pro bearing tool right here. You don't have to use this exact one, but it is like $100. It's a good quality tool. And we're gonna push our bushings out here, the metal bushings. Recommend you do this with gloves because it's gonna be a mess with grease. You have a paper towel ready, always wiping off your hands. You have a couple rubber bushings here as well on each side, so there'll be 4 rubber bushings. And I usually just press that out with everything else. So we're gonna use a 20mm bearing tool right here. Goes right in the center just like that. We gotta set this thing up now. Because this is Motion Pro, everything is going to be standard and not metric. So if you don't have a set of standard tools and you get this, make sure you do have a set of standard tools. This piece right here, it's kind of cup holds everything together. We're just gonna push this in like this, through there. Then we're gonna put our washer on the top of this, and our other nut at the other end of this. Push it about right there, push it through. Always put enough slack on this side, doesn't really matter if you have long enough deep sockets. Make sure it's nice and tight. And then all we're gonna do is we're gonna push the bearing through here. Now, of course, it's 3/4 inch. Again, Motion Pro, that's all standard stuff. I'm sure you can do this whole thing by hand, but if you got the cool tools, why not use the cool tools? So 3/4, holding with a 3/4, and driving with a 3/4. Then all you do is this. And that is pushed out. You can see the bushing went out right in there, exactly how I wanted it. Just make sure you're careful with the needle bearing. And you can see the other bushing fell out on top of it right there. We're gonna do that for both sides, and after that we're gonna press them in to the new link. Okay, I'm definitely gonna use a little bit of grease right here for the new link. We're just gonna kind of put a little bit in there, a little bit in there. This is made to be just as tight as the OEM link, so we're gonna make sure we get some grease in there. Okay, now we're ready to press the bearings into the new link. So the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to take off the dust guards. Those go in last. And I'm going to start with this, put it together again, start with that, push the bearing in by itself, just the needle bearing, and we're going to put the needle bearing through there just like that. Now obviously I need to get a little bit of thread here, so let me just go ahead and do this. There we go. Now we're all the way to the end. Get this bearing ready to go. All right. Now again, you just kind of get everything where it's ready and pressed. Make sure it's nice and even right there. I'm going to push this up a little bit, like just like that. I think that's good. Nice and tight. You can see it's not going anywhere. Push this in here. And now we're going to go ahead and drive this again. And this is going to drive this in now. Now you don't want to drive it in too far because we have all those other bushings we have to put into it. So you want to make sure it's nice and even in the link. So here's my first guess. Wrong. Definitely wrong. I have to go a little bit deeper on this one. It's been a while since I've done one of these. That's about center right there. That's exactly where we want it. Okay, now that this is all set up, now we got to push the bushings into it. The bushings are directional, so whatever way they came out, they go back in. Pretty easy to tell. One side has a bunch of grease on it, one side doesn't. I'm going to push all 4 of these in. After all 4 of them in, you want to push the metal bushings back into it carefully, because you want to catch a needle bearing. So very carefully put them in there. Now let's go ahead and wipe this off. And that is a finished link. Now we can install it back on the bike. First up here is this lower suspension bolt. We just want to drive it a little bit, so it'll just hold the shock up. Now the link isn't directional, but I like to have it where the BT Moto logo is facing up like this, because I don't know, I'm just kind of OCD. We're going to put the top part of the link in first. Make sure you also have a dab of Loctite on the shorter screw here that goes to the top, and have that metal bushing needs to go back to the bike before the bolt goes in. And then we're going to put this link in, drive the bolt in just to hold it for now. We're going to try to just drive the bolt in with our hand for a little bit here, and then we'll get our ratchet back on there again. Drive it the rest of the way. All right, after you get the top bolt somewhat in, where it's in pretty decently, we're gonna go ahead and lower the bike to the point where we can drive the second bolt through and get that caught as well. It's pretty easy to tell on this one because there'll just be an empty hole when you line it up correctly. Again, we're putting a little bit of Loctite on all these T55 bolts. And we're just gonna drive this in so it's holding. Then we can raise this up, and we can get a really good angle on that top bolt. Again, make sure you're checking the bike, because this is getting real wobbly right now, so this is probably on my limit right here. Now, I got that bolt driven in. How tight is it? I can't tell. I can't get a torque wrench in there, so I just go tight as hell. And I've done a whole lot of these, so I know exactly what I mean. Tight as hell. And we're going to drive our second bolt here. And we'll do the rest by hand. Ugh. That's pretty tight. As far as the lower one here, I'm also gonna do this really tight, but I'm gonna pull it out, put some thread locker on it, and drive her back in. Okay, now you got the link secured and the suspension secured. We're gonna have to put the subframe back on with the SOS device if this is applicable to your bike. They only started putting these on the bikes for 24 and 25. So if you don't have it, not a big deal. If you do have it, that's how you do it. You also do not have to just lift this up. If you wanna remove the seat and the tank huggers, go ahead. It'll make this easier to move, but there's enough room for me where I can maneuver it and not break anything and still get this in and out. So the best practice I found here was to put the lower bolt in first, just to put it in there. And then we're able to get the top bolt in easier. And then we can get that middle bolt in. Tighten everything down. And as far as the subframe goes, if you have the SOS device, when you're putting these back in, you want to put one in, maybe this one, and then have the person that's helping you or whatever, how you maneuver the subframe, then drive this one in. You can see they're both not really in. They're just kind of loosely in there. And then go do the other side. Then that'll give you enough space to put the subframe in back in properly. Now, if you're worried about how close the suspension is now to the actual subframe, don't, because when you apply pressure or you apply weight to the back end of this bike, the suspension is going to move away from the tail. So when it's at rest, like right now, this is the highest the suspension will be, and it's not touching. Now that everything's back together, you want to make sure you check your chain slack. This is way too tight, so I have to loosen this up a little bit. That means we have to loosen this bolt up, push these in a little bit, and get the tire in just a little bit so we have enough to factory spec, because this is way too tight right now. Now let's go ahead and install the Brox Link. Now putting this in, you have a bunch of spacers, which is 13 mil, and this is gonna be a 5 Allen right here. And we're just gonna kind of space this out. Remember those marks we made on here? We wanna make sure it's nice and straight with those marks we made on it. And then this is gonna go basically like this. And you stretch this out by using these bolts and just kind of twist the whole thing around until it gets the desired length. And then we're gonna secure it in using the supplied hardware. And you see you got the spacer on the back of this one and the spacer on the front of this one. And you can see my line. You can see that black line right there. It's perfect. So we'll have no issues once we tighten this whole thing down. Okay, and that's all wrapped up. And this is a 10, or sorry, this is a 5 for the Allen, and it's a 10 for the nut on the back of it. I think I said 13 or something like that. So it is a 10 and a 5. And now you can put the chain guard back on, and you are done lowering the rear. Now we got to move to the front. Now a couple quick notes here about the final ride height of the front of the motorcycle here. Now I've tried this a couple different ways. Now the first way I'm going to tell you here is to take the forks and lower them to the point where they're almost kissing the stock location of the reservoir, meaning they're just off the bottom of this. And if this reservoir is in its stock location, it'll be right up, almost right up against it. And I feel that's probably the best one for the bike handling and taking to a track if you want to do that kind of stuff. I chose to go a little bit lower this time just because I wanted to test it out. It still handles very good, but I still rather have it a little bit higher in the front here to kind of maximize the actual handling if you're a track rider. Still, if you're doing spirited riding, this level is still fine. I'll show you how to relocate this as well. Now, if you want to go to the ride height, we have it on this bike. You can see there's 1 inch right there, 1 inch to that first gold line from the top. So you see that silver where it meets the gold, then we got it right there at 1 inch. But between where we have it right now with lower and where it is at the bottom of the reservoir in its stock location, both are good ride heights. So let's start lowering the front. Usually I just go down there and get the 2 bolts, but it's kind of hard to get to, and you may scratch a few things, and you may strip the bolts, or you may strip the head of the bolt, which is no fun. Let's just go ahead and take these fenders off. Since we already have the belly pan off, the side panels right here are gonna be very easy work. So T25 here, there's gonna be a T25 under the BMW logo. BMW logo comes out just like that. There's a T25 in there, and there's 3 T25s on the inside of the fender here, which is gonna be, so you can see from this side, yeah. 1, 2, and 3 way down there. Once you have those off, it's really easy work to get to the center fork clamps. Now you can see we got it off here. We have easy access to those clamp bolts right there. And to pull this off, there's posts in here that go into rubber grommets to the sides. So as soon as you get those bolts out, you kind of pull out, and then you pull it gently out. You see there's 2 posts right there that go into the front fairing right there. You want to make sure you're gentle with that as well when you pull it out. And I usually put a rag right here just to kind of pull it out and make sure it doesn't scratch the frame. Make sure you still have that lift under the oil pan and it's still giving tension on the bike, because now we're going to drop the forks, which means there's going to be no load on the forks, so the bike will drop straight down if you don't have a lift in the center of the bike. So make sure there's a lot of tension on that. And then we're going to loosen up these T40s right here. And you can see here, I've got to pull the wing out of the way a little bit, just so I can get the head of the ratchet in there. And then we're just going to loosen it up, so there's no tension on it. And you got to loosen both of these up. Okay, now you notice there's a T45 right here. The bike won't drop until you drop this. So this is the last thing we're going to do right here, both sides. Now you'll see as soon as we did that, we got some tension right here that got let off, and the whole forks dropped a little bit. As you're dropping it, just make sure you're watching the DDC lines. If they get tangled up, you can create a little bit of looseness by pulling on a little bit. That's about all you need. Now, as you need more space here, you're gonna take the lift that's in the center of the bike and lower it. You can see it. It's giving us more and more space. And then I'll take a rubber mallet and I'll hit the top of this. If you want to lower your bike higher than the bottom of the reservoir, you're going to have to relocate it. So all you gotta do is unscrew the T20 that it secures it with. It's usually on this side like this. We're just gonna move it to this side of it. Just on the other side, that's all. And that'll give us enough space for the fork to move through it. Now that you've gotten your desired height on one side, drive that bolt in, make sure it's nice and tight. Then you wanna move on to the next side, measure it again on the other side, knock it around if it needs to be knocked around up or down, make sure it matches the other side perfectly, then lock it in, then you can lock in all the other bolts, put the bike back together, and she's wrapped up. And don't forget when you're tightening these bolts, you'll tighten one, it'll get tight, and you tighten the other one, and just keep on tightening them until you're torque to spec on both of those bolts. Now we're all wrapped up. We're 1 inch lower on the 2025 BMW S1000RR. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.